Hey guys, so I started knitting this blanket. It's a gorgeous blanket from my own sheep wool. I love her wool. It's so pretty. Look at this gray. Isn't this just to die for? Like, oh my goodness. Anyway, gorgeous. And then I realized, I'm like, this looks kind of big. I mean, I got big knitting needles, like not big, but like long. Okay, I got long knitting needles. So I can make this blanket like a big bed blanket, cozy, giant wool, weighted blanket of wonderfulness. And so I started this blanket, and I've made a few of these before, but with crochet, and I don't like to crochet as much as I like to knit. So I'm like, I'm gonna buy super, super long knitting needles, like it has a long cable in them, you know, so that you can knit something enormous. And I don't have to use double pointed needles to do it. So I start doing this thing, and I'm like, wow, this is taking a ton of wool. I'm only like 4 inches in. I've been working on this for forever. And so I finally was like, I'm just going to measure this. So I took my fabric tape measure, and I started measuring the inches of how long this is, and I couldn't believe how freaking big I made this blanket by mistake. So I was aiming for being 6 feet wide, which is a pretty big blanket to be 6 feet wide, and then I was going to make it, I don't know, however long I felt like was the right length for a perfectly good cozy blanket to share with somebody, because I like to snuggle with my husband, and I want a good snuggly blanket to share with my kids. Anyway, I measured this out. Guess how many freaking feet it is? 20. It is 20 feet long. I have spent months working on a blanket that was supposed to be 6 feet long, and I kid you not, is 20 feet long. And now, as every knitter knows, I must take it apart and start over and redo it all. So like, why? Anyway, yeah, measure your gauge. Make sure you're stitching the right way, because when it's all bunched up on here, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell how big this is, other than it's big, you know. But, oh my gosh, I'm glad I didn't get, like, a lot farther and then realize, but this is pretty far. I still got 4 inches into this project of a 20-foot blanket before I realized, like, I don't think this adds up. Like, this looks too big. So, this massively beautiful, I even did the Irish moss stitch, so that it had like a cute little fuzzy texture to it, you know, like it just, I don't know, it just gives it a nice yarn texture, and it will lay perfectly flat and everything. And I like to make patterns, and I know how to make patterns. I've been stressed, so I've been knitting, and yeah, it's 20 feet long, and my brain is just exploding. I cannot believe that I made such a rookie mistake. I've been knitting since before I started kindergarten, so 3 or 4 years old. I know better than to do this mistake, but here we are. This gorgeous, gorgeous wool that was going to be such a nice blanket that is now ridiculously long. I'm going to take it apart. I'm going to show you how long it is. So, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. You can watch my soul die. Oh, gosh. Are you ready? Here we go. Can you tell this is way too long? This is so much longer than 6 feet. Oh my gosh. Just the time it's taken to get off the knitting needles. these are 5-foot knitting needles so that I can knit this blanket without having it fall off the sides. But let's find the end and I'll show you how long this is. Ready? Here's the end. Ah, there's so much. Oh, there we go. Let's look at her. Oh, this is so much of my life. Oh, there she is. Oh my gosh, total failure. All right, there, yep. Yep, there. Now to unravel this lovely beast that I knitted. I did such a good job too. It was looking so beautiful. Now all you do, it's called frogging, but you essentially just undo the whole thing. It is also painful to do. I do it on pretty much every project I make because I always make some sort of mistake, and I can't let myself apparently make mistakes and wear things or keep things. I mean, this is a blanket, but obviously I've made too big of a mistake to repair on this one, but and a lot of things I make, if it's not perfect, I take it apart, and I need to just not be a perfectionist anymore. But this is what I have to do now. Get to spend an hour ribbing a 20-foot long blanket that was only supposed to be 6 feet long. So mistakes were made. Well, at least I can use this yarn again. You know what's the best thing though? I told my husband I made this mistake, and I'm like, wait a second, do the math on this, because I'm like, there's no way I messed up by that much. But I did. I totally messed up by that much. And I asked him to do the math on how long is this blanket really, because if it's not ridiculously too long, then I'll just keep going. But it is absolutely ridiculously too long. I cannot have a 20-foot blanket. That's just insane. This is not a ship sail. And so I asked my husband to do the math for me, just to check. You know, obviously my sanity needs to be checked because I made this mistake. And he's like, you know, if you had made it the right length, it would be like 16 inches long already. I'm like, oh my gosh, why? I would much rather have it be 16 inches long right now, because this blanket I made from my own wool that I sheared off my own sheep. One of my favorite sheep. She's such a beautiful sheep. Super skittish, but gorgeous, like mythical gray. Like this gray is beautiful. You can see this. This isn't even washed. This is just dirty right off of her, and it's still gorgeous. I love it so much. But anyway, this is half of her fleece. So if I had done the blanket right, I'd be 16 inches on half of one of her fleeces this year. And I've got last year's fleece that I'm using this one from. And then I'm going to shear her this year, so I'll have this year's fleece. So I could be pretty far into this blanket, but instead I am going to spend an hour doing this. Undoing this blanket and then rolling it back up into a ball and starting over. But oh well. Every good project, I guess, has to be undone. I can't seem to make anything. I call them my heirloom projects. I can't seem to make any heirloom projects that could be passed on, you know, or used for multiple generations, because real wool can last for as long as you can keep moths off of it, you know, which, if you're pretty good about that, is forever, you know, essentially. So, yep. I guess it wouldn't be a real heirloom if I didn't have to start over at least once. So I think we need a better visual. So here is how big this blanket is. mistakes were made. But it's so beautiful. It will be so beautiful when it's done right. But you have to admire the craftsmanship, even of a mistake. It'll be so beautiful when it's done right. But this is insane. I obviously need to pay attention when I knit. No more movies and knitting at the same time. Because clearly I need to get my head in the game. Oh well. It is what it is. Anyway, just thought I'd share because sometimes the only way to deal with the heartache of knowing months of your life is undone and started over is that maybe it can be slightly comical and someone else can be like, oh girl, I've been there. You know? Or you can laugh together. So, yep, there you go. There's some humor for you. You can laugh in my expense. I'm sure if you know how to knit, you have been here. But I think this one takes the cake. I don't think anyone has ever made that mistake when they're intending to make a 6-foot blanket and make it 20 feet instead. So I think that one takes the cake for being oblivious to your project and just blindly knitting for months. So anyway, hope your knitting projects are going better than mine. And like always, happy knitting. I hope you guys are working on something that's great. And I will update you on the real blanket whenever it is done correctly. So, bye guys. We'll see ya.